everybody, I recently had a comment from a fellow VC member. His name is Steve Lang, and he asked if I could share my Bob Dylan record collection. So I'm going to do just that. I have a lot, so this video might be kind of long, but feel free to fast forward and, you know, it's your YouTube and your own computer or whatever you're using, so do what you want with it. Here we go. I'm going to try to go kind of quickly. First things first, I don't have Bob Dylan's very first record, the debut album, the self-titled album. But I do have, Bobby's coming in the room, by the way, so you might see him wandering around. I do have the Freewheelin Bob Dylan, which I absolutely love. There's Bobby, by the way. Speaking of Bob, how appropriate. Bob was named after, of course, this Bob. So this is, I believe this is a later pressing. Yeah, it is. So this is on that Columbia label, which I believe is like the 70s, mid-70s, late 70s label. I don't know that much about Columbia labels, but anyway, that's the Freewheelin Bob Dylan. And my favorite song on this record would definitely have to be Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. Can't go wrong with that. All right, so that's the Freewheelin Bob Dylan. Then his next album, this is The Times They Are AChangin, which is also one of my favorite Dylan records. Probably my favorite early Dylan record would be this one, as far as just him and an acoustic guitar. And it's probably because I really love the song One Too Many Mornings is amazing, and my favorite song on this album is The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll. It's just such a great tune. And this one happens to be in mono, and this is an original pressing on the original Columbia label there. And I picked this one up, I believe, at a thrift store, and it smelled so much, and it still kind of does, like cigarette smoke. Like, it was insane how much it smelled like it. So I actually kept it outside on the old place I used to live, outside on the porch. I kept it out there for a while to get the smell away, and it worked a little bit. But anyway, with the record out of it, by the way, so there was no chance of warpage. Anyway, Times They Are AChangin, Bob Dylan. I'll probably be saying Bob Dylan a lot during this. Okay, and then this is another side of Bob Dylan, which I think is it's kind of a weird record in my opinion, but I do like it a whole lot. He sounds slightly drunk to me on some of these tunes, and this is the last one he would make before he went electric with a band. So this is actually a reissue, a repressing, and it's on the Columbia label, as you can see there. And by the way, I'm holding it like this, folks, so don't worry. Not touching the grooves. And I think this was just released a couple years ago. Let's see, when was it released? Well, I don't know. But I believe it was like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So that's another side of Bob Dylan. And my favorite song on this album is To Ramona. Hands down, To Ramona. Okay, next up, I have a couple copies of this. This is, I believe, the mono version. This is Bringing It All Back Home, which is one of my all-time favorite albums by anyone. Famously, the side A is electric, and then side B, well, not electric, but it's with the band, and a lot of it is electric. And side B is acoustic, and it's too hard to pick one song that I would love from this album, but I will say one of my all-time favorite Dylan songs is She Belongs to Me, and also It's All Right, Ma, and It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, and Mr. Tambourine Man. I mean, this album's just fantastic. So I believe this is an original mono pressing. Yep, it is. On the Columbia label. And yeah, it's one of my, I don't know, this is one of my go-to albums. A lot of the times when I'm just sitting around, I go, what should I listen to? I just put this on. It's always great. And then this is a stereo version of Bringing It All Back Home. And this is not an original pressing. This is like, I believe, a 70s or 80s pressing. It used to belong to a library, so it's got some like information on there. It says, ask for record at front desk. Well, not anymore. Anyway, bring all back home in stereo. Then we've got another classic, Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited, which again is one of those records that I just absolutely love and devour all the time. It's got Like a Rolling Stone on it. It's got Ballad of the Thin Man. It's got Takes a lot to laugh, takes a train to cry. And it has Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues, which my band currently plays at all of our live shows. It's one of my favorite songs. When You're Lost in the Rain in Juarez, and it's Easter time too. And this happens to be a later pressing. This is, I believe, a 70s or 80s pressing. And this is in stereo, by the way. And again, I cannot pick a favorite song from this record because they're all great. But I will say at this time, when I look at it, if I had to listen to one song right now, I'd want to listen to Tombstone Blues. Because I like when he says, God said to Abraham, kill me a son. Abe said, man, you must be putting me on. Okay, next is one of the best records ever made by anyone. This is Blonde on Blonde, of course, which I absolutely love. I'm going to be saying that a lot with these Dylan records because Dylan, to me, is in a category with the Beatles, obviously, and Neil Young and Brian Wilson. Just a select category of people who just were, almost everything they did was perfect to me. And this album is perfect in my opinion. This is just, it's a double record. It's considered like the very first rock double record. And this happens to be an original stereo pressing on the Columbia label. And this is one of my prized possessions because I found this, the vinyl is in absolutely fantastic shape. And hopefully I'll keep it that way. It's got these little bags. I actually kind of like these bags, these Columbia bags that they originally came with. It's a good idea because anytime I got a record that is in these Columbia bags, the vinyl is in absolutely pristine condition. So these bags have something to them. And the cool thing about this is that on Blonde, they had different pressings had different photos inside. But this one has this model. I think she's like a French model or something. And later pressings they took that out because I guess they didn't get permission from her. I might be getting that story wrong, so if you know the actual story, please write in the comments what the actual detailed story about that is. But this is an early pressing. I do not know that for sure. So that's Blonde on Blonde. Stereo. Then, this is one of my favorite pressings of any record I own. This is a modern pressing. This is by a company called Sundazed. And this is a mono pressing of Blonde on Blonde. And Sundazed does amazing, amazing work. Anything I have by them just sounds fantastic. I actually did some research before I bought this. I wanted to find the best mono version of Blonde on Blonde. And the mono version and the stereo version really differ a whole lot. They have like a bunch of different longer fade outs, same with the Beatles, where the Beatles mono and stereo versions were a lot of them are different. Same with this. But Sundazed did just a great, just fantastic job with this. And as you can see, by the way, on this, see that girl is missing from the gatefold. Yeah, and I guess I'll show you the label. Why not? It's the Columbia. They reproduced the Columbia original mono label. So that's the Sundazed mono version of Blonde on Blonde, which I again highly recommend. A lot of times when I want to impress people, if like they come over and want to hear my stereo system, I'll put this on, and I put that on, and I also put on one of my original stereo pressings of Dave Brubeck Take 5. Those are my trying to impress people records. All right, this is pretty cool. I got this on Record Store Day a couple years ago. This is called Dylan, the Basement Tape. It's a reproduction of the original acetate that had the first, I don't know what you call it, the first 12 songs from the Basement tapes. It's got a little insert here. Do I want to take it out? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But anyway, here's the actual record. Okay, it's got 14 songs. And I don't know if you can see that label or not. Probably not. Oh, there you go. You can see a little better right here. It's on an EMI disc acetate reproduction label, which is pretty cool. So this has all the well-known songs from the Basement Tapes, and it's actually made from the Garth Hudson of the band, and he's on these sessions. It's from his reel that he compiled, and there's a little stamp of his autograph on the back here, and then it's numbered, but it's just numbered by, you know, someone just took a pen and wrote it on there. So I don't know how official it is, but anyway, I do love this. This is really cool. So yeah, Bob Dylan Basement Tapes. This is from Record Store Day. And it's in mono, by the way. Then you got the official release of the Basement Tapes on Columbia, which was released in the mid-70s, I believe, which I do love a whole lot. I won't show you the label. You've seen the mid-70s Columbia label. And if I had to pick a favorite song from this, by the way, I didn't pick a favorite song from Blonde on the Blonde because I like the whole thing, but probably my favorite would be Visions of Joanna. If I had to pick a favorite song from this, I would pick... I do love You Ain't Going Nowhere because my band plays that in our live set. But I also love This Wheel's on Fire. There you go. All right, moving on. This is a pretty controversial record. We are now going out of order, I realize, but that's okay. This is Bob Dylan's self-portrait album, which a lot of people don't like. In fact, in Rolling Stone, I believe the review started with, "What is this shit?" You can look it up. That's exactly what they wrote. I actually kind of like this record a whole lot. It's Bob Dylan Goes Country. And it's when he had this voice, he was singing like this. So I like it. I think it's really cool. Mine happens to be a promotional only copy. It's got that gold seal there. I don't know if you can see it or if you care. And my computer froze, so I got to go like that. There it is. This is on later. It's a later Columbia pressing, but I do like this record a whole lot. And if I had to pick a favorite song from this, I could easily do it. It would be called Copper Kettle. Really cool song. Okay, now we're going back in order, I think, a little bit more. Okay, this is John Wesley Harding, and one of my favorite Bob Dylan records. Kind of a weird record, and this happens to be an original stereo pressing on the Columbia label, which I'm very happy to have. And this album, of course, has All Along the Watchtower, which is the big song that Hendrix took and made into a huge anthem. But my favorite song on this is I Dreamed I Saw St. Augustine. It's just a fantastic tune. I love this record. Absolutely love this record. Again, it's kind of a weird one, though. So that was John Wesley Harding. Then you got Nashville Skyline. This is not one of my favorite Bob Dylan albums. A lot of people like this record a whole lot. I definitely think it's good, but it's not one of my go-to that I listen to. The big hit from this is Lay Lady Lay. But my favorite song is I Threw It All Away, which was the B-side to Lay Lay Lay. And I actually have, this is an original stereo pressing. I have Lay Lady Lay and I Threw It All Away 45 in my jukebox right now. So I do like those two songs, but this album in general, it's really a short album. I believe it's under 35 minutes, but anyway, Nashville Skyline. Then you've got New Morning from Bob. And this is, to me, an underrated record. I think this is a really, really cool Bob Dylan album. He was kind of getting back into, in my opinion, better songwriting. And it's got If Not For You on here, which George Harrison, of course, covered on All Things Must Pass. It's got Went to See the Gypsy, which is a really cool song. Day of the Locust. And then my favorite song on this record is probably the title song, New Morning, which is great. And I believe this is a later Columbia pressing. No, this might be an original. I don't know for sure. There's a big difference between my Beatle collecting and my Bob Dylan collecting. Bob Dylan, I really love the music. I love Beatles music too, obviously, but I just love the music, and I just want to get the records in good condition to listen to the music. I'm not really into collecting all the different versions or all the different pressings, unless the pressing is exceptionally better than the ones I have. This is kind of a weird one. This is the album. It's just called Dylan, and this was released when Bob Dylan was leaving Columbia Records to sign with Asylum. Let's see, I think David Geffen had like wooed Bob away to sign to a Asylum label, and they put this out. It's just a bunch of outtakes and stuff, and it's Bob and his voice again. And it's not a great record, but it's interesting to own. So that's the Dylan record. Semi hard to find. This has actually never been released on CD either, from what I understand. Okay, and this is the Bob Dylan, Pat Garrett, and Billy the Kid soundtrack. This features the song "Knocking on Heaven's Door," which was a big hit, and then it also has a bunch of songs, just instrumentals from the movie that was released around the same time, which Bob Dylan happens to be in. It's a good movie. This record isn't one of my go-tos, though, either. I don't listen to this all that much unless I want to hear "Knocking on Heaven's Door." So there you go. Moving on, this is one of my favorite Bob Dylan albums. This is called Planet Waves. This is a record he made with the band, and it's got so many great songs. It's a really like, to me, it's a really rockin' album. My favorite song here is "Going, Going, Gone" and "Hazel." I shouldn't say my favorite because I actually like almost all these songs on here. I love the song "Something There Is About You," and then the big song from this was "Forever Young." There's two versions of "Forever Young" on here. There's an acoustic version, and then there's like a kind of a faster version. Yeah, but this is just a great album. And this is on the Asylum label when he was on Asylum. So this is one of the original pressings. And yeah, I just love this record. So that is Planet Waves. Then the other record that came out around the same time. This is a live album. This is called Bob Dylan and the Band, and this is, I believe, called Before the Flood. And this is a later pressing, because originally this was released on Asylum, and this happens to be a Columbia pressing when they reacquired Dylan's catalog from Asylum. So this is an okay album. I don't listen to this all that often. This is in really good shape. It's got the barcode on the back, which lets you know that it's a later pressing, and it's again on the Columbia later label. And yeah, Before the Flood. I believe that's the only Dylan live album I own. Okay, and I'm ashamed to say that this is my only copy of Blood on the Tracks, but I want to change that. And this is actually not in great shape. But Blood on the Tracks is one of those albums that the first time I heard it, it just completely changed everything about music for me. The songs on here are so fantastic. It's hard to describe how great they are, but it's got Tangled Up in Blue, maybe one of the best songs ever written. Simple Twist of Fate, another just killer song. Idiot Wind is amazing. It's like he's snarling when he's singing. He's so angry and it's just so good. Everything on this album is so good. Shelter from the Storm, Buckets of Rain, If You See Her, Say Hello. If you haven't heard this, immediately go out and pick this up, because it's just such a great record, and I really want to upgrade my copy here, which I will do very soon. In fact, I'm glad I made this video because, yeah, this one's I'm not going to show it. It's in a depressing state. It plays, but I could do way better than that. Okay, now this is a bootleg I picked up a couple years ago. This is called Bob Dylan Blood on the Tapes. The story with this is that when Bob originally made Blood on the Tracks, he recorded all the songs in New York at the Columbia Studios with just him, an acoustic guitar, and a bass player, and maybe another guitar player too. And then when he played that for his brother, and his brother said, like, oh, it's too naked, it's not going to sell well at all. He then re-recorded half the songs in Minnesota with a full backing band. And so the original Blood on the Tracks is made up of half of those sessions and half of the acoustic sessions. Well, these are the full acoustic sessions from that time period, which is really cool. And this happens to be on colored vinyl, which I don't care all that much about, but I will show you just because it's kind of cool to show. So that is Blood on the Tapes. And actually, this contains to me, a better version of the song If You See Her Say Hello. I think that it's better on this one. Now, another bootleg. This is called Bob Dylan, The Desire Outtakes from the Desire record. And this has some interesting stuff on it. You get a completely different version of the song Hurricane and Joey, which are two of the big songs from, and it's just a blank label. Two of the big songs from the Desire album, which is coming up next. Here is Desire, which is one of my favorite Bob Dylan albums. It's definitely my top 5. I'd probably go with Blonde on Blonde, Bring It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, probably Blood on the Tracks, and then Desire. That's my order of my top 5 Bob off the top of my head right now. This is just such a fantastic record. And my favorite song on here is definitely the song Isis, which, of course, now has kind of a weird connotation because of those terrible people. But anyway, this is just a fantastic record. So, Desire. Then this is here's another live album. This is Bob Dylan, Hard Rain, and this is a really, really cool record where he's just absolutely like foaming at the mouth. His ex-wife showed up to this show and was in the audience, and you can just tell that he is just pissed off. He does a great version of Idiot Wind on here. So this is Hard Rain, which I do like a lot. And then, as if there wasn't enough, this is a bootleg of that same tour and that same concert, actually, with just extra stuff on it. So this is called Bob Dylan Live in Colorado, featuring Joan Baez and T-Bone Burnett. There's the back. And this is a great bootleg. Now, I have two copies of this, and they're both the similar pressing. So I'll just show you the better one. This one's not so good. This one's a lot better. This is an album called Street Legal, which I love, which gets panned a lot. And I think one thing I read online was like, the albums that you would always find in the discount bins, you could always find Bob Dylan's Street Legal, which I believe is true. It kind of got panned when it was released, but I think it's a really great record. It's kind of a mess of a recording. It's just like a wall of sound, but it's so good. My favorite song on here is a song called Baby Stop Crying. Excellent song. Listen to it right now if you've never heard it. It's so good. And Changing the Guards is great. This is a really fantastic record. Anyway, Street Legal. If you haven't heard it, I definitely recommend it. I have 2 copies for some reason. Not sure why. I should investigate that. Okay, now Bob went into his religious period, which I actually kind of like. This is the first record from that period called Slow Train Comin'. This is produced by Jerry Wexler, who was known for his Muscle Shoals production with like Aretha Franklin. This is a really, really great album, and the big hit from this was called Gotta Serve Somebody. But my favorite song on this album is a song called Slow Train, and it really, really rocks. So this is a really cool record. And yeah, it's got religious, it's definitely religious, but it's really cool. It's great. It's a great record. So there you go. Then, I think we're out of order here, so I'll try to go back in order. I'm missing an album in between Slow Train and this, an album called Saved, which I don't have, and I don't really like all that much, so which is why I don't have it on vinyl, but I will eventually pick it up. But I do like this album. This is called Shot of Love. Again, this is another one that kind of gets overlooked. It's just a really cool record. Again, it's kind of religious. The big song from this is a song called Every Grain of Sand. But my favorite song on here is Heart of Mine, which I think is really cool. And it features Ringo Starr on percussion and Ron Wood on guitar. So pretty cool. Moving on, another one of my favorite Bob Dylan albums. This is called Infidels. And it features a song called Joker Man, which was a big hit in the 80s. But it's also got a song called Sweetheart Like You, which I love. Don't Fall Apart on Me Tonight. It's I and I is a great song too. This is just a really, really great record with Mark Knopfler on guitar. And I think Mark Knopfler helped produce this a little bit too. And great rhythm section, Reggie Dunbar and what's that guy's name? Oh, Robbie Shakespeare, I think is the other guy's name. Drums and bass, fantastic. Okay, next up, this is an album called Empire Burlesque. This is still in the original Shrink, which isn't, you can probably find this in the original Shrink quite easily because this is not a well-regarded Bob record. I like some of the songs on here. I like Tight Connection to My Heart. I like a song on here called When the Night Comes Falling from the Sky. Interesting about this album, on the back, there's George Harrison's second wife, Olivia Harrison, which makes me think that George may have taken this photo. Anyway, Empire Burlesque. Not one of the best Bob Dylan records because it's got like 80s drums and 80s synths. It's kind of a mess in that regard, but anyway. Another really weird Bob record. This one's called Knocked Out Loaded, which is it's a good record, but my phone's ringing, so I'm gonna just silence it real quick. It's really only got one great song on here, which is called Brownsville Girl, which is an amazing, epic song. It's like over 12 minutes long, I think. Really cool song, worth getting this record just for that. Next up is an album called Down in the Groove, which I don't really know much about because I remember listening to it about one time and not really digging it all that much. It's very late 80s. Got a song in here called Silvio, which is okay. Anyway, that's about all I can say about that. Now, going from one album that wasn't that great to an amazing record, this is called Oh Mercy. And this is not an original pressing. This is a later pressing done in 2011 by a label called Four Men with Beards. This is a great, great album. For anyone who thinks that Bob didn't do anything great after Blood on the Tracks, listen to Oh Mercy. It's so great. My favorite song on here is Everything is Broken, but Ring Them Bells is amazing. It's just, this is a great, great album. So you should check out Oh Mercy. And we got two more. Our last one is, this is one of the newer Bob records. This is all covers done in like a big band kind of way. This is called Shadows in the Night. My cat Bob is currently swatting at something so I can hear noises. This is a cool record. This is like a mood record for me. I'll put this on late at night. It's fun to listen to. But it's nothing really big to write home about. But still cool. It's cool that Bob's still making music, and yeah, glad I got this. There's two other records that are similar in this vein. One's called Fallen Angels, I believe is the next one, and then the other one's called like Triplicate, which is 3 record set. Don't have those yet. Maybe I will someday. Last but not least, this is a Bob Dylan compilation, which is pretty well known. It's called Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits. There's many different versions of this. I believe this is the most common one, and I think I got this maybe for free somewhere along the line, or for $1 or something. So anyway, that's my Bob Dylan collection, and I love Bob. So I'd love to hear some comments down below. Am I missing an album that you think I should pick up that's amazing? That's it. So hope you enjoyed the video. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.